Hi there, it's me, Mr. B. We're going to do compositions of functions, and that's basically applying one function to the results of another function, and we're going to do it for two functions here. There's one there and one there, but really you could do it for an infinite number of functions. You could just keep going if you want, but for the most part we're going to do it with two functions. Alright, step number one, start with the innermost function closest to the number or variable. Alright, so given the two functions, we're trying to figure out f of g of 3. So that little circle right there is not a degree symbol. It basically just reads like of. Now I could also write that like this, f of g of 3. So using parentheses, and that's actually the more common way of seeing it, but you can still write it either way. They both mean the same thing. Alright, so again, that's f of g of 3. Alright, so I'm going to start with the innermost function. That's the one that's closest to the number. So there's the number. So I'm going to start with g. Alright, so start with g. Alright, so I'm going to start with g of x. Alright, so plug the number or variable in where you see an x. So step number 2. So I'm going to start with g of x, or really, I'm going to start with g of 3. I'm going to plug a 3 in there. So g of 3. So g of x is 4 minus x, so I'm going to take the x out, put 3 in its spot. So 4 minus 3, and that's going to give me 1. Now that 1 is now going to become what I plug into the next function. So if you want to think about it another way, I can actually just say that that whole thing right there, g of 3, has become 1, so now I really have f of 1. So I can replace the g of 3 with a 1, so I have f of 1. Alright, so step number 3 is plug the answer that I got from before into the next function. So f of 1, and I'm going to bring that 1 down here. So f of 1, so I'm going to take the x out of f of x, so that's 1 plus 5. And so I'm going to simplify that outermost function, so f of 1 is going to be 6. So f of g of 3 equals 6. And there's my final answer. Hi there, it's me, Mr. B. We're going to do some examples of compositions. So given the two functions h of x equals 3x minus 1 and f of x equals x plus 1, let's start with finding a, which is h of f of 2. Alright, so I'm going to start with the function that's closest to the number. So that's f of 2, so let's do f of 2. So take the x out, put 2 in its spot. So 2 plus 1, which is 3. Now I'm going to take the 3 and I'm going to plug it into the next function, which is h. Alright, so I'm going to take that 3 and I'm going to plug it in down here for h of 3. And so I'm going to take the x out, put 3 in its spot, so 3 times 3 minus 1, 9 minus 1 equals 8. Alright, the next one, next composition, f of h of 7. So I'm going to start with the innermost function, which is h, so h of 7. Alright, take the x out, put 7 in its spot, so 3 times 7 minus 1, so that's 21 minus 1, that's 20. So now I'm going to take that 20 and I'm going to plug it into the next function, which is f. So take the x out, put 20 in its spot, so 20 plus 1, which is 21. Alright, so for c, h of f of x, I'm going to start with the function closest to the number, or in this case the letter, so f of x. Alright, well, f of x equals, well, there's no number to put in here, so, but I do know what f of x is. F of x equals x plus 1. So wherever I see an f of x, I can replace it with x plus 1. Alright, well, I can't simplify that anymore, so now I'm going to plug that into the next function, which is h. So bring that down, and h of x plus 1. Now this is the trickiest part of these composition problems. I need to take the x out of h and replace it with x plus 1. So that x right there, I need to replace it, take it out, so there's a hole there now, and then I'm going to replace it, fill the hole with x plus 1. So I have 3 parentheses x plus 1. So I took the x out and I replaced it with x plus 1. And then I still have my minus 1 left over on the end. So I took the x out, replace it with x plus 1. Just like you do the numbers, except instead of replacing it with a number, I'm replacing it with x plus 1. Alright, so now I need to just simplify. So I'm going to distribute. So 3x plus 3 minus 1, which is 3x plus 2. And that's your final answer. Doesn't everybody just love a good salad? Look, I see some avocados, I see some bacon, I see some chicken. Makes me hungry. Hi there, it's me, Mr. B. Let's do another example of compositions. I'm given 2 different functions this time, so a of x equals x squared minus 5 and b of x equals 3x. Let's first find b of a of negative 1. Alright, so let's start with the innermost function. So I'm going to start with a of negative 1. So I take the x out of the function a and replace it with negative 1. Now I need to watch here because negative 1 squared, I need to put the negative 1 in parentheses if I'm going to put this right into the calculator. We all know that negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive 1, but if I type negative 1 squared like that directly into the calculator, it's going to give me negative 1. And the reason is it's doing PEMDAS, it's doing the parentheses, the exponents, it's doing the exponent first, it's doing the order of operations, it's doing 1 squared, and then it's multiplying by negative 1. So it actually is following whatever orders you put into it, but that's not really what you mean. You want to put the parentheses around it. So when I come back down here to negative 1 squared, that's going to be 1, and then I'm going to subtract 5 from it. So negative 1 squared is 1, 1 minus 5, negative 4. Alright, so now I'm going to take my negative 4, and I'm going to plug it into the next function, which is b. So b of negative 4, and I'm going to take the x out, replace it with negative 4, so 3 times negative 4 is going to be negative 12, and there is my final answer. Alright, so for b, I have b of 2. So I'm going to start with the innermost function, which is b of 2. So b of 2 equals, so 3 times 2, take the x out, replace it with 2, and I get 6. So now I'm going to take the 6 and put it into the next function, which again is b. I'm going to plug it into the same function. So b of 6. So now I'm going to take the x out, replace it with 6. So b, sorry about that, b of 6 is 3 times 6, which is 18, and there's your answer. Alright, for the last one, you have a of b of x. So I don't have any numbers in this case, but I will start with b of x. Start with the function that's closest to the letter or number. So b of x is 3x. And if you want to think about it, you're really taking the x out and replacing it with x, which really doesn't do anything, so it's just 3x. I can't simplify that anymore, so now I'm going to plug it into the next function, which is a. So a of 3x. And a of 3x, so I'm going to take the x out, that x right there. I'm going to take the x out, there's a hole, and I'm going to fill the hole with 3x. So I have 3x squared, the whole thing is squared, minus 5. So now I just simplify what I can. 3 squared is 9, x squared is just x squared, and then I have minus 5. I can't combine anything there are no like terms, so that is my final answer.